Friends, the Hebrew Bible, known as Torah, in case you didn't notice, opens with questions so potent. Do you remember the first question in the Bible? God asks Adam, Ayeka, where are you? God asks Cain, where is your brother Abel? And Cain, if you remember, responds with a question of his own. Am I my brother's keeper? In many ways, our entire lives are responses to these questions. It's not that the questions always lead to clear answers. Either it's what they do to the mind. It's what the questions do to the mind and soul. And it's not that God didn't know the answers. It's that God wanted to awaken something in human beings, from Adam to you and me. There's a wonderful Jewish teaching about an angel that teaches us the entire Torah when we are in our mother's womb. And then just before we're born, the angel taps us under the nose, which gives us that hollow above our lip. And we forget it all. And this memory loss bespeaks that tendency some of you may have felt, that pull that we all have toward a point of origin that we once knew, but now must strive to recall. Forgetting something is not the same as never knowing it in the first place. Passover, which as Rabbi Bowman noted, begins 2 weeks from Friday night, is our time to remember. Believe it or not, that is the mitzvah of Passover, remembering what we may have forgotten. Passover shares similar elements to today's milestone for Mason. It's a family occasion. It is a religious event. And as with all true Jewish occasions, there will be lots of food. And just as Mason will receive the Torah shortly, reenacting that moment when Moses was given the Torah on Mount Sinai, so is our upcoming spring holiday of Passover, a reenactment of the Jewish people's emergence into freedom. But let's not forget, as we remember the Passover story, what happened when Pharaoh finally relented and told Moses that the Jews were free to go. That wasn't the end of the story. Do you remember? Moses went back to the Israelites and told them, okay, we're free. And were our people happy then? Actually, they were not. They even told Moses, we don't want to go. They asked him many questions like, where are we going? Who will feed us? What's the hotel going to be like? Where will we sleep? Moses was completely surprised. He couldn't answer any of their questions, and he didn't know what to do. Why did our ancestors who are suffering not want to go? Because while they knew how to suffer, they did not know how to be free. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I'm not sure we know how to be free either, other than a free-for-all. In Judaism, it's not enough to be free from slavery. You have to choose responsibly and wisely with whatever freedom you've got. When a boy like Mason, or our older temple teens in the 10th and 12th grade who will be confirmed and graduate next month, reach freedom, which they often perceive as freedom from the slavery of school and rules, the choice is not between slavery and freedom or the promised land of college where your parents aren't on your case. The choice is always between what they've known and the unknown that lies ahead. And anyone here in college, looking back, can attest to that. You know, we talk a lot nowadays about freedom. We're currently waging a war against terrorism all over the world, against enemies who seek to destroy precisely the freedoms we claim to cherish and which we celebrate during our upcoming Passover festival. But in truth, we may not know nearly as much about freedom as we think. Freedom is far easier to talk about and to long for than to live with. What do I mean? I would bet there's a slavery every person in this sanctuary has experienced. The slavery that keeps us from following our instinct for goodness that nobody else has imposed upon us. The slavery that keeps you from being genuinely nice, honest, or pleasant is another inner slavery that nobody else has imposed upon you. We enslave ourselves, not just 13-year-olds, Mason's age, but older people my age or older. We enslave ourselves with, let me start the list. We enslave ourselves with ignorance or greed, always wanting more instead of giving more. We're enslaved by notions of entitlement or victimhood. We're enslaved by the fear of change, about clinging to places and behaviors and ideas that are small and hurtful, because letting go of them will mean facing something unknown, uncertain. So here's my point in one sentence. The choice is never between slavery and freedom. It's between slavery and the unknown. Because for people who are free, the future is always uncertain. Freedom is just as frightening for us as it was for our people in Egypt. For parents of teenagers, the freedom of a child driving a car on highways and streets where other drivers are impaired or reckless is frightening. Few adults are truly free because whatever we attach ourselves to, money, fame, fear of growing older, whatever we attach ourselves to can enslave us. Sometimes we end up serving these masters without even being conscious of it. Bar mitzvah is the beginning of the journey in choosing Jewish teachings and Jewish practice as an anchor through the uncertainty freedom brings. Bar mitzvah is like, Mason, it's like the starting line of a marathon, with Judaism as the roadmap to the promised land. And before I close, let's deal with that. What's the promised land? It may be many things to many people. In a few minutes, when you see 3 generations passing the Torah to Mason, I overheard BJ, Honey, and Rudy mutter in their own way, this is our last grandchild's bar mitzvah. The 6th, I believe, for you. The 11th for you. For BJ, Honey, and Rudy, that's reaching the promised land in one sense. But the promised land is any distant goal, which is different for each of us. For friends or family who have cancer, the promised land is better health. For others, it could be a better job. The promised land could be a better life. For people on the streets of South Memphis, the promised land may be freedom from hunger or fear. For immigrant groups, the promised land means freedom from bigotry and injustice. But in closing, perhaps on the deepest level, the promised land is the same for us all. Whether you're younger or older, Jew or Gentile, boy or girl, perhaps on the deepest level, the promised land is the courage to know and live by the inner goodness deep inside of you. And with that goodness, to serve and bless and belong to one another and to life. I hope you agree that nothing we possess is worth defending more than that kind of freedom. And no time is more fitting for the wonder of it all than these days leading to Passover. Maybe we're called to keep on doing it every year until we get it right. Amen.